Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the TechIT podcast. I'm your host, Gregory, and I'm here with my friend Mike. Here are some of the bullet points for today's top stories that we're talking about today.
Yeah, today we'll be talking about whistleblowers. Was it Francis Hugen?
Hagen,
Is
I think it's
Facebook's worst
pronounced.
nightmare. Facebook bans a developer for using an unfollow tool or everything tool on the main page for your feed. Microsoft promises to actively look at the right to repair. Best Buy scalping PS5s? Question mark. And a lot more today, even going into the Apple and Epic Games um, resounding
Lawsuit.
victory. Yeah, the lawsuit and Epic's Games resounding victory. That and more on today's podcast.
Today is October 17th of 2021, and again, I'm here with my friend Mike. So, Mike, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. It's really nice weather down here in Florida. I'm enjoying all the sunshine. How are you doing?
I've been good. Just a bit ago, I came back from a wedding that was at the Cincinnati, Kentucky border inside Marriott Suites. But
Oh,
it
how
was
did
a
that
good
go?
time. I stayed safe and
That's
what
good.
have you, just traveling up and down there. And it was a good time. It'll probably be the last time I see these cousins for a good while. But it was a good time.
Well, I'm glad you had a good trip.
I'm ready to get involved in what we found here today, starting with a rare instance where mainstream news actually picked up on tech news. Wow.
That's
Who
crazy,
would have
right?
thought that? So this story was picked up speed after Frances Haugen. I probably didn't pronounce that correctly. She
Our
whistleblowed.
apologies.
She whistleblowed in front of Congress to say what Facebook's been doing in terms of what we've talked about ourselves here, even on the podcast, about how they're not faring well for the mental health of children and teenagers, as well as the ability that we don't know how they're just hogging data and we don't know what that data is or how much they muster of it,
Now I know you
as well as its ability to weaken democracy and, in her words, harm children and stoke division, put profit over moral responsibility, and that these problems, yet solvable, a safer, free speech respecting, more enjoyable social media is possible.
Now I know you. Did you shut down and delete your account, or did you just deactivate it?
I deactivate it for now, but I think in the future I'm gonna delete it completely. Maybe by the end of this year. I'm trying to shoot for possibly by Halloween even, if I find ways to just get all my pictures off there. But
I've also deactivated my account, and I think a lot of people have done similar, just getting off Facebook just because they didn't trust it anymore. And do you think this is too little, too late? Do you think a lot of people would be like, "No, I'm not coming back. I just don't trust Facebook anymore"? Or do you think this will push people into coming back just by them getting called out and maybe something good comes out of them getting called out? Maybe they change their tune. Do you think this will affect people's decision?
well, to quote what a lawmaker I think in Missouri or Minnesota, one of those M states, said about this was he called this a moment of their big tobacco moment for Facebook. Like they're finally going to be put to task for issues that have been known for the such software or not software, such an IP for many years overdue. But personally, if I were to be really realistic in my realist mindset that I've been growing in my head since I was able to walk, is I think they're gonna get away with it. I think that I've seen many people say they're gonna leave stuff and it just doesn't happen. There were trials as recent as the 2017-18 trial for Cambridge Analytica, which Facebook somehow skirted around back when they kind of indirectly took a bunch of people's data in accordance with the election and with this group called Cambridge Analytica. which I would go in details about that, but I think Frances also hints at that in her 60 Minutes piece. So if you're out there and you're over the age of 45, you probably saw this piece on 60 Minutes where Frances herself goes on there talk about what's been going on Facebook as someone that's been familiar to Facebook as someone that used to work there, someone that used to be involved with such a company and Mr. Zuckerberg for I would say a couple years.
So from your point of view, this company's done. They're not changing their tune. They're in the past. Everyone quit smoking. Everyone's gonna quit Facebook or try to quit Facebook.
I think like some efforts could be done, but I'm wondering if anything like will be actually set in stone because it was just the other day I saw that some people in I think the House of Reps said that's representatives said they were suggesting a provision to Section 230, which would have social media companies like Twitter, Facebook, Wattpad, uh, and others in that realm hold more responsibility for what happens to its people.
That's
So
always a good thing.
time will tell with this, and I'll personally keep my eyes on this as it
I will
seems
definitely
like
be keeping a
the
close eye on this
mainstream
situation.
starting to like actually, for lack of a better word, give a crap about this stuff with people such as Mr. Zuckerberg, or as the internet calls him, the Zuck, posting last Tuesday 1,316 word statement to his own page criticizing her testimony, which I kind of knew would happen, as you know, the CEO just got attacked by some former employee on a public channel and on a cable show. So he said that he believed the testimony overall created a false picture of the company and the tech company should build experiences that meet the needs of young people while also keeping them safe. And this is the same
Agreed.
guy that might have broken COPPA as Francis throws back at him, which is supposed to protect the privacy of children.
Well, I'm sad to see Facebook go this way. I think it's gonna fizzle out, but and I think it had a lot of potential, but I think it's still something to watch.
It had
I don't.
potential back in 2006
It had a
when
lot
it
of
came out.
potential, and I think it still has a lot of potential to connect people. But I think this is kind of where it falls off. But continuing with Facebook, let's go into uh, the developer that made the unfollow everything tool.
Right, so this man's name is Louis Barclay, or Louis Barclay for the nomenclature, or if you want to choose to say it like that. He is the creator of this browser extension called Unfollow Everything that allowed Facebook users to essentially delete their own news feed, kinda, by unfollowing all the connections at once, clearing it out. So you just have a big white space. I've tried this myself, and you just get left with a big white space, which would,
Are you a fan of this, or you prefer to stay in the loop with the newsfeed?
for a good while, I bounce on and off on like if it's best to just be, for lack of a better word, ignorant about what's going on in people's lives, but I've also seen that also damage others in my life as well that just aren't informed of anything at all. So I'm wondering what the pros of this could fully be if like this was ever put out as like a, let's say, a software update, as like a full-fledged feature, not just an add-on you can just look up on Google Chrome store.
I think it was a good idea. I liked that you could unfollow everything and then you could just go to people's pages if you really want to know what was going on in their lives. Um, and I didn't use this, but I liked the idea, and I'm surprised that Facebook didn't be like, "Hey, this is a cool idea, but let's make it more specific to like, hey, I don't really care about this person's story as much as this other person, you know? So let's just keep them in the feed." Um, or maybe just unfollow everyone and then go back and refollow certain people that you really want to see. So, for example, like let's say your cousin like is interested in the same job as you, or same like maybe you're interested in hardware and they're interested in hardware. Maybe you just want to follow their feed. So I think it had a lot of potential. And I'm kind of mad at Facebook for not like saying, "Hey, let's work with this guy and see if we can make this better." Um,
Because he did violate the agreement, so I give Facebook that. They're just kind of they have
yeah,
terms of
but I think
service,
I
but
think they saw it as more like of a threat than like an opportunity.
yeah, that's the word. That's the word that I would say they would put it. Like while Zuckerberg and his pundits of minions, let's call them, would can go online to say this man violated the agreement and I don't like that. But they can come back to other stuff they said previously where it's like we engage in the community of creativity of our users, but
Even just going
please
back and be
don't
like, "Hey,
please don't
this guy
put
might be
tools
doing
out.
it. Guy might be doing it himself, but like, let's add it ourselves and make it just a toggle so you can turn off your feed if you want, and just I don't know, put
That's
something else there."
that's is what's smearing about this because as someone that could get realistic and cynical sometimes, I wouldn't blame Facebook if they did that. To just say like, "Oh, come on, guys, look, times are tough. If you're having mentality issues, unfollow everybody." I made a button on Facebook.
Maybe you're just annoyed with seeing everybody's feed, and you just want to use Facebook as more like a chat system, or just you just want to keep up with your like maybe you have a bunch of like parties or like maybe you like host a lot of events and you want to keep
Because
up with that stuff and you
this
don't want to
guy's
see your feed all the time.
yeah, because this guy's tool was also being used by researchers at the Swiss University of Neuchâtel to study the effects of the news feed on people's happiness. So it was being used in accordance for research, which I don't know. I haven't done that much research these days during my time working out and working, just doing regular work.
It's back
But
to working out. I
he
gotta get
says
back into
himself,
it.
he said himself he couldn't risk tangling in court with a $1 trillion company like Facebook, so he simply just removed the tool after receiving the cease and desist letter, which then coincides
Well,
with
I mean, what
how
else?
both these pieces can be found on TheVerge.com, by the way, with a previous note that we just mentioned about Francis Haugen
But what else could he do?
testifying.
It's $1 billion company, and he's just one person. He doesn't have that kind of funding to. It was a homemade tool, which kind of sucks because like I think it had a lot of promise. But let's go ahead and jump ahead here to Microsoft and their promise to look into the right to repair.
Yeah, so as someone that likes to modify stuff and look for solutions to stuff on their own, Mike, what's your
Yeah.
reaction to them saying this announcement that, oh, let's see if we can relax the right to repair
See, I'm a big fan
nature?
of repairing things. I'm always repairing old stuff, old phones,
Oh,
whatever I can get my hands on. And I think this is a big push, not only for people that like to repair things, but if you think about it, uh, this will reduce electronic waste. This is great for, we have all these electronics piling up in landfills everywhere,
oh
and
yeah.
there's a lot of companies that aren't doing anything like as proactive as this. They're not looking ahead, and Microsoft is looking ahead to this. And I know like some people are like, oh well, um, iPhones are they last a long time, or you can, but like there's no way to repair them. Like a lot of the time you take your iPhone in to get repaired, and they're like, oh, just get a new one. So I think the right to repair is something that needs to be pushed more and more these days. Um, Especially, just for the future, I think the future, everything's gonna be modular. Like, we're gonna be switching out, like, phones or sorry, we're gonna switch out phone batteries, we're gonna be switching out screens, we're gonna be switching out whatever we can, and everything's being very modular. Uh, Going back to one of our old podcasts where we looked at what was it? The modular laptop? I think
Hmm.
that's the future of the technical world, and it's gonna not just be for people that like to repair stuff, it's gonna be like, for the everyday person. So I think that this is a good push for them.
Because this factors in with how most devices nowadays have a planned obsolescence policy, which for those that don't know, planned obsolescence basically means, like, let's say currently you own an iPhone 10, and it's a nice iPhone 10, and it's the iPhone 10 Pro. You got a nice case for it. You have all your contacts and photos on there, but then by 2023 Christmas, it's slower by comparison to your friend or partner's phone that they suddenly get, where it's like, oh, this one's so much better. It's the iPhone 15X or something. You gotta get rid of that one, and then you start to see performance issues with the iPhone 10. Meanwhile, because you've held it since about holiday season this year or since your birthday. And to fix it, you go to a Microsoft or Apple or what have you store, and they just say, "Get the new ones have like a better system in place." So they'll make some bull crap like that. Just say like, just kind of weave you in a direction of you might as well buy the new one.
Yeah, and
Like
a
you
lot
can
of them
get
are
the
just
new
trying to sell that product because some of them, like, if you go to a store, they might be on commission, you don't know. So,
because that's another thing to factor in is if like the Apple Store, Micro Center, and what do you call it, H Gregg. I don't know. Are they still around?
oh, I don't
They
even
usually
know.
have computer stuff there, as well as Best Buy. They usually work on commission or select people. I wouldn't say the young ones, but the seasoned ones. They usually work on commission where it's like, oh, you gotta get these ones out, especially because we have overstock on these, or the representative or our middleman between that company and us wants us to sell them, and if we get rid of more, you'll get a pay raise potentially. With getting rid of that one, but specifically by let's say Black Friday
Well,
or
speaking
something
of
like
Black
that.
Friday, let's go ahead and jump ahead here, um, to Best Buy and their new policy for buying PS5s. So, just to go into it a little bit here before we talk about it forever, because this is a big one. So in the going forward, if you want a PS5 for the new shipment of PS5s from Best Buy, you have to get a $200 a year membership. What are your thoughts on that, Greg?
I'm not a huge fan of monthly memberships because call me old and I'm only in my low 20s,
Yeah.
but I liked it when you just bought it
Yeah,
and you
old
got
state of
it.
mind. I like that though.
Like I got a Nintendo Wii. They weren't like, oh, to get a Nintendo games, please give us $50 a month to play, I don't know, Just Dance 2015.
Why there's
Or
so many subscriptions nowadays?
like it's a model that's worked, and one of the biggest players in that model was HBO. When you look back, before HBO Max became one of the lowest streaming service providers recent times, but that's another topic we can talk about another day and week.
Another time.
But the HBO model, back when Netflix wasn't taking off and they were just sending DVDs to people through the mail. Remember when the mail system was fast? Anyway, back when HBO was just HBO and it had shows like your dad would watch, like Sopranos, The Wire, and what was it, Fargo? Yeah, it would have Fargo and Cheers. I think those
Mhm.
were like the prime shows you would find on there. That was still a subscription model where I think at the time in like the 2000s, it was, I think the lowest tier was 20 and then went up to 50 where you can get some movies
And I think a big thing about it is
a
once you
month.
get a subscription and it just auto resubscribes, it's everyone's just like, "Oh, it's just a pain to cancel it, so I'm just gonna hold on to it." So, like, I don't know if it's
Yeah,
auto renewing, but, like,
they get
it's gonna be
FOMOed,
yeah, it's
as
gonna just
well.
keep
That keeps them.
renewing and people people just wanna, just knowing that it's there for them, even if they're not using the service, it's comforting to people. So it's hard for people to quit it. Um I am not a big fan of subscriptions because once I have something, I have it. I just want to use that because I'm not always using it. Like I feel like unless I'm constantly using that product or constantly using that service, that is just too much of an expense. And I think the reason that Best Buy came out with this $200 a month is to eliminate scalpers buying up all the PS5s.
Which we've covered before on how the PS5, or rather Sony's PS5 market, has been messed around a lot due to the nature of scalpers ever since PS5s came out last year.
But as of right now, we don't know if you buy this membership, does that include every PS5 you buy? Like, can you buy a bunch of PS5s right there, or is it like one PS5 per membership?
I would say there's a limit on it because there's already limits in person for buying stuff as important as consoles. But at the same time, you can buy a bunch of bags of ice and propane and printers. They don't stop you, but and you can still
Mhm.
mess around with those things. But if it's like a PS5, which recently has been shown to be a machine that's been used by crypto miners for nefarious purposes, with some recently getting caught in Europe and I think the Southeast United States using them on crypto farms.
Well,
But
some people are speculating that their Best Buy might be in cahoots with scalpers because I think the policy doesn't read that it's one per yet. So it's still
because
early on. We'll see.
we could put our tinfoil hats on and say like, oh, they are in with them. That's how they're trying to stabilize the market because Sony's yelling at Best Buy about how no one's buying them, the ones at the place, because they see all the headlines from months back that say, "Oh, don't get them yet." There's like none left. That's what people keep telling me. That's the word online, guys. Uh, PS5s, you can't find one, so I'm just gonna wait. But
Yeah.
Best Buy, meanwhile, and I don't know about Walmart. No one knows about Walmart these days.
But I think in the end here we have to vote with our wallets. It does. I mean, I don't think I'm gonna go buy a PS5, but if I was, I'm not gonna go to Best Buy and pay $200 for the yearly subscription and then another. How much is PS5 now? Like $500 or something?
I would
Four or
say
500?
on release it was 500. If you get like a normal one that's
Nuts.
not scalped or messed with price, it should be
So
500.
yeah, so that's gonna be like $700 at that price. I built my gaming PC for that price.
Yeah,
So
and that led to a point that you brought up earlier as to this price hike, which could normalize the itself into the console market, combined with the supply chain mishaps and slowdowns that have happened in our own country and around the world since probably around the first breakdown of COVID. What do you think the status of this market is for for gaming consoles going forward will be? Do you think it'll mimic that of the PC machines by next year and going forward, or do you think it's like a like only like a short-term effect that
I think
people will
as long
normalize
as
spend?
mining is a thing, and as long as graphics cards are expensive, it will stay expensive.
Hmm.
So, because if you think about it, people are using anything they can get their hands on to mine with. So there's, uh, what is it? Any gaming PC they're mining on. They're mining on gaming laptops. They're mining on your PS5. I haven't heard of Xbox yet, so maybe that's a thing that we just haven't heard about yet. So anything
The
they
one,
can get their hands on.
the one that would shock me is if someone tries to mine stuff on a GameCube.
Yeah.
Like they're just in the basement, you just see this really hot purple box in the basement. They're like,
That would
"What's
be
this?
hilarious.
What's this, Forces?" And it's just like some 28-year-old guy wearing a basketball shorts going like, "I'm nothing. It's
He's
a
got
hot
like
plate.
25 GameCubes stacked up.
It's a hot plate. Don't look at the Ethereum on there. It's
Oh
nothing,
my
guys.
god.
It's nothing." Like it'll be interesting going forward with how this market will go. And if you want to listen to a conversation about this topic, you can go to I believe the channel was Linus Tech Tips.
Yes, and they talked about it on their own podcast called the Wayne Show, and they go in depth on it. But let's go ahead and jump ahead to another topic. So this next one is another video on Linus Tech Tips, and they're talking about this device called made by Total Phase, and it's just a cable tester. And you have a hot swap panel that you just swap out for any cable, and it tests your cables and it tells you the quality of the cable. And it's a simple pass fail. If it passes, it's a good cable. If it fails, it's a bad cable. So, um, he does a whole experiment and video showing how it works and how to use it. And how they pass fail these cables and they go through and do some of their cables. Um,
It tested a
but
lot of HDMI cables, which
yes.
is very vital in our current culture where people are stirring away from just having cable, because
Mhm.
cable's been on a downslope and like for many years.
Yeah. As you start
Can't
streaming
talk about
to from your, like, laptop to your TV, this is gonna be more and more important, so, um, I would definitely just ex I'd love it if you guys went and checked this out. It's a great video explaining how the machine tests the cables, and it's very informative, so it's definitely really cool to check it out. It's called "This Just Saved Me $100,000" because, usually devices like this are very expensive, so
or you'd have to
definitely go
pay a
check that
worker
out,
to do
guys.
it.
Exactly. So go check that out, guys. That's online. Again, that's on linustechtips.com, or it's on YouTube, but it's Linus Tech Tips channel. Um, and the next one is the next topic we're going over today is the new six. Was it the 6060? Or no, it's the 6600, right? GPU.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go through this real quick because we are running low on time today, but you can check that out on YouTube. It's the Linus Tech Tips as well. They're talking about the new GPU that came out for AMD, and
Streamed
they're doing a
online on
lot of
YouTube.
what was that?
You can look at this again online on YouTube at the Lions Tech
Exactly.
Tips channel.
And
And
they're just comparing, contrasting the new card with some old cards and some Intel cards. And they're just explaining how it's underperforming. But I mean, it's a decent card. But I recommend go checking out the video of see if it's worth it for you to buy.
as it's an ever going fight between AMD and Nvidia
All right.
in terms of
So
what's the best product.
if you're a big GPU fan of one or the other, go check it out. It explains it. It explains which one's doing better right now and which cards you should buy. So let's hop into the Apple appeal of the Epic Games ruling.
Yeah, so this was, and technically this is an old case about a while back, which debated between, again, two giants that probably will have more money than me and Mike will ever get. Apple
Yeah,
versus Epic
who
Games,
knows?
or Tencent, or Tencent, who owns Epic Games Store.
But I think we covered this before on the first lawsuit. But this is the continuing story
Yes.
about how Apple's appealing the first decision or the
Yeah.
first ruling.
So this is an ongoing update with what we said before. So, like I said, unlike mainstream media, we actually follow up with our stories when we find updates for them. So, getting into this piece by TheVerge.com, if you want to follow this through, I'll try to put links to these once I upload them on the sites that they're on. So Apple's trying to appeal this case as they want to they're since Apple likes being Apple, they're like, I didn't like that victory by you or by us. Can we get more victories? So
And they
as
have
part of the
so much
appeal,
money they can spend as much time on court as they want, can't they?
oh
Can't they?
yeah,
They just keep appealing, right? Until they
yeah.
get their win.
So as part of the appeal, Apple is asking for a stay to prevent the company from having to implement the new anti-steering rules, arguing that this would allow Apple to protect consumers and safeguard its platform, while the company works through the complex and rapidly evolving legal, technological, and economic issues. As the company arguments there are pretty revealing if they're reading their own document right, as they claim that the new anti-steering wheel in regards to App Store sites and its guidelines to have app developers charge their own prices for their own microtransactions. That's what this whole case has been about, between developers with Epic Games and Apple hosting both apps and fighting each other over it,
I
which
think
started
this is a very greedy appeal. I think Apple's like, "Hey, we have the money to appeal this. Let's do it and get more money."
they're
That's all I can see from this. I
they're
don't see
afraid
anything else. They're
this
exactly, they are afraid. They're afraid that someone else can butt heads with them on a legal level. Um, and they're afraid if they get overruled, then other companies will too. Other
There,
companies will start butting heads, which I think is a good thing. People need to butt heads with Apple.
there needs to be competition and there needs to be challenge on Apple because I'm sorry, Apple, but developers need to make their own money. And
Exactly.
they kind of sometimes don't get. It's nice that Apple kind of tries to have a partnership before with app developers. Like, let's say for apps as old as, let's say, Angry Birds. They they had a partnership with Angry Birds developer, whoever he or she was, or whoever they were, what have you. They said at the time, okay, we have this agreement. Now, do you want to put your app on our store still? Because technically, we'll take a cut of your transactions that someone buys for, I don't know, extra lives or extra, was it, flinging attempts in Angry Birds? I don't know. It's been a while. I'm old. But
I've only
they
played the
seem
game once.
generally
I know. I
afraid
feel you.
that this court order would force them to open up the App Store, its own Apple App Store, to alternate payment options, despite what some of these pundits have claimed, which is a lot of them panicking or just trying to reshape the clay mold, as I would put it, to say like, come on, it is an issue. We don't want that to happen. That's not good for the market, guys. Like, don't look over here. There's no problem in bossing, say. Like, like that sort of thing. God, that was an old reference. But
I enjoyed it.
they also cited an old case, Ohio versus AMX, as evidence that transaction platforms like the App Store can promote competition despite steering restrictions. What even though Amex in that case doesn't double down as a software marketplace still like Apple does. So I don't know if that links together in that realm. So meanwhile, on Epic Games' part, they announced its intent to appeal on the same day Judge Gonzalez Rogers issued her order and permanent injunction against Apple. And it was clear from that notion as well that Epic CEO wasn't happy by uh I don't know how to
Did you
put
see
this.
the little post he put?
Yeah, I don't know how to
I
I don't know how
thought it
to
was pretty cool.
I don't know how to put that. You can look at the document if
He
you're into
tweeted,
legalese or a 24-page document. You can look at that 24-page document that was linked and pinned in the Verge article that I'll
"Oh yeah, it goes
either
into details. It's huge. So I mean, if you're really into it, go for it." I really want to talk about this tweet that they put up by it was by Epic. The little like there's a little picture of like a banana and like a little tux, and it says Apple failed appeal.
yeah,
I
so
enjoyed that.
Apple so because this fight goes back a bit of a ways, but as far back as when Fortnite opened the conversation about these two app store companies fighting with each other over microtransaction power, for lack of a better word. As far back as when Tencent and Epic Games themselves made an ad that that effectively said Apple was totalitarian.
I
It
mean,
kind of it mimicked an
doesn't it
old
feel like
Apple
that
ad
though?
from like the 80s. The iconic Apple ad where a girl throws a sledgehammer at the screen that's like of a tyrannical leader. But this time, ironically, Apple is in that spot, and
Exactly.
it's a
That's
weird
how it
ad.
feels right now.
You can look it up online because
That's an old ad.
that's like from before I was even born. But you can look up that old ad and the recreation of it for this Apple versus Epic Games case, which is, yes, even though it's billionaires versus billionaires, and there's probably no goddamn way I'll get $1 billion and be able to relate to this case where it's like, hey, these developers are trying to take like 0.0067% of my money. I don't like that. Uh,
Yeah, I think it's a big. I think I think part of it's look, we have the money to fight it in the court, and we will. And if we don't fight it in court, then we're gonna get more people trying to pull up lawsuits. Um,
lawsuits
but
galore.
Let's
It's
let's wrap that up because I'm tired of talking about Apple and their greediness.
yeah.
Let's push forward into Twitch source code and the big leak.
Yeah, so our security piece for this week and final piece is regarding a Twitch leak that occurred, what was it, just 2 weeks ago, a little over 2 weeks ago. And it was put on a 4chan post, which I do not recommend you guys go to. But if you're curious, there's a screen cap of it on this Ars Technica website, which I will pin in whatever I upload this on, either SoundCloud or YouTube or both. So, an anonymous user claimed to leak 125 gigabytes of data lifted from 6,000 internal Twitch GIT or Git repositories, basically effectively saying, "Look, here's all how all of them get paid and the names for them." The forum poster mocked Amazon's acquisition of Twitch, Mr. Bezos, by saying, "Jeff Bezos paid $970 million for this. We're giving it away for free," as if a way to just shove it in his face that
It
this
sounds
guy
like
just,
they're attacking Bezos. I think this is like an anti-Bezos uh like group or something.
yeah, and this archive that's 125 gigabytes again, which isn't a small size regarding a data sheet effectively just has names of accounts and how much money they're making. It's just titled Part 1, alluding to a possibility of more leaks. So that's a bit alluding, as if like it's like some sort of mystery novel that's gonna come through with more to come. But
Holy crap. I recognize some of these people.
there is a pinned tweet here
Wow, that's a lot of
from
money.
an account named Knows Something. Oh God, Nova's there. Huh. Anyway, Knows Something also put out a pinned tweet that says, "Here's a comprehensive list of the leaked Twitch payouts," and he'll keep updating the thread as more things are revealed. As he puts it, it reveals the gross payouts of the top 100 highest paid Twitch streamers from August 2019 until October of this year. And I'll list some of the names that got leaked. And I don't go on Twitch that often, but if you're out there and you recognize some of these names, this is going to be intriguing if more gets revealed about them, especially in the realm of what we see in ransomware and other hacks where details as sensitive as real names, passwords, email addresses, banking information, which kind of got revealed already here with how much they make, which people aren't exactly comfortable with. As the old saying goes, you don't ask a girl their age, you don't ask a man how much they make, and you do not ask Neckbeard what he does for his time. But yeah, some names include Uber Haxer Nova, Vine Sauce, Silver Veil, Know Nothing TV, Ludwig. I know people that like Ludwig. Germa, Moist Critical,
Sips is on there if you're ever uh, a fan of Sips.
uh,
Nanos is on there.
Aiden. Oh God, I
Asman
know
Gold
from Twitter.
is on there. Asman Gold. Um,
Critical Role. That's a big one. Critical Role.
I'm
That's Matt
surprised how
Nurse's
much
channel.
Osman Gold makes. That's crazy. That's
Yeah,
I'm gonna start streaming Twitch right now today. Let's go.
like what else are they showing up?
All
I'll
right.
post this out by how the guy who posted on the 4chan forum claimed that the leaked data dump contains, even though in another piece I saw, they said that there aren't any passwords or names released in this, like personal names.
Well, that's good.
The poster himself, though, says, I'm just assuming it's a guy, but I could be wrong. So he claims that the leaked data dump contains the entirety of Twitch.tv source code, which is bold, knowing how enhanced Twitch is as a platform. But I'll keep going. Creator payout reports, as I mentioned earlier. Mobile, desktop, and video game console Twitch clients, which that can get rough. Proprietary SDKs and internal AWS services used by Twitch. That can have avenues that reach into stuff, as you know, Mike, as to how stuff can get splintered off and just cause whole lots of damage.
Indeed.
data from, quote, every other property that Twitch owns, including IGDB and CurseForge. I don't know what those are. Twitch's
Forge
internal
is like
SOC teams. Yeah.
it also helps with like downloading mods for certain games.
And information about unreleased Steam competitor named Vapor.
Yeah. And
From
installing mods and a lot with mods. But let's go ahead and wrap up the podcast for today. Thank you everyone for listening. And anything else, Greg?
Yeah, just take care of yourself, take care of your friends, and remember to just take in the moments, and because the moments sometimes last longer than the picture. As someone that just came back from a wedding, uh, got to
Make
find
sure
out,
you guys
guys.
stay vigilant out there.
Stay vigilant, everyone.